Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we've got an unlikely angry bear, White Sox prospects doing great, and WTF Cubs. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does this mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The Ice Hogs just forced a Game 6 in the semifinals for the Calder Cup against the Texas Stars. That is awesome. So they all the games left for this series are in Dallas or wherever in Texas that Texas Stars play. But if the Blackhawks are able to come out of this series, you can still get tickets for the Calder Cup final. That will be against Toronto. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, and hopefully tickets and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, my friend, how are you doing in this heat?
It's hot. I like it, though, because I've always liked the heat. A lot better than the cold, in my opinion.
I don't know. For the last couple months, I've been talking about how much I want to live in Wakanda. And after today, I'm like, maybe I need to rethink that.
Yeah, you just got to know how to adjust yourself in this kind of weather. Always stay hydrated. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm such a cranky baby when it comes to hot weather. Cold, I'm like, I can deal with it. You can always add more layers, but at some point, you can't take any more layers off legally.
That's true. Legally.
I'm just walking down, State Street, my birthday suit. Hey, everybody.
Oh my God. Imagine John Lackey doing that on Buttercup. But he's got his boot and spurs. That's all he's wearing is his boot and spurs.
He had in a bolo tie.
What you looking at?
The shrinkage.
He goes walking in, clank, clank, clank. Everyone looks. Oh, what is that?
Buttercup. Oh my! All right, if you're listening to this, and this is the first time you ever listened to the show, is we invented a caricature of John Lackey and his horse Buttercup, which I don't know if he has a horse, and if he does have a horse, whether the name is Buttercup, but we would like to think that he does have a horse named Buttercup.
We should make like a whole storyline about this.
Oh my God. I just imagine John Lackey going to the movies and then it's the perfect plot point here. Clank, clank, clank. Everyone's like, shut up. I gotta get more butter on my popcorn. And it's his spurs clanking through the aisles of the movie theater. Everyone's like shushing him.
Oh, that would be so annoying to listen to in a movie theater if somebody had spurs.
Oh, I know. Every time he's moving around, you're clank, 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 clank.
Especially this big old John Lackey.
I gotta get it empty my chaw cup. He's always got a coffee cup that he's just like puts up to his lip and what?
I don't know what these Avengers are, but I love my chaw.
Who does Thanos think he is?
I'd kick his ass.
Is it? He think his jewelry is better than my jewelry?
No way.
Them infinity stones don't look as good as my jewelry.
Yeah, I think we should do at some point is we have a story. We start a story, and then every week we add to the story. Just a segment you add to the story, like one of those. It's like one of those old radio programs before television. Instead of like the Black Pirate Ship, it's the Adventures of John Lackey. Tune in next week, kids.
Oh my god! Let's totally do that. That's
Maybe
awesome.
Little Orphan Annie can sponsor the radio show, so you'll get your little decoder, and the decoder has an engraving of John Lackey on it.
This ain't Ovaltine. It's Chaw.
Be sure to chew your chaw.
Don't drink your Chaw.
That's the message? A crummy commercial?
Oh my god. Like, be careful, you'll spur your eyes out, kid.
Oh my god, he'd be the perfect guy to fight the furnace. Imagine that.
Oh my god, I totally want to. What's his wife's name? Christina?
Do they ever say her name?
I think it's her name. Whatever. We need to have her on. That would be, and we just do our impersonation for her and get the thumbs up and thumbs down.
Yeah, it is Christina Lackey. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I knew Christina was either Lester's wife or Lackey's wife because I saw it in a like a picture of the two families, and I'm like, all right, it's one of their wives.
Yeah, she's got a Twitter. Since Lackey doesn't have one, she kind of updates the whole world on how the Lackey family is doing.
How's that search for a job going, John?
He probably just sits around with his millions and his 3 rings and doesn't give a rat's ass at this point.
he just sits there with his Red Ryder BB gun.
Yeah. I gotta protect my family.
What you looking at, Black Bart?
My kids go to the stool and take care of Buttercup.
All right. I want to start with a little bit of Bears.
All right.
So I guess the first thing I want to talk about is Kevin White is I've seen a lot of people trying to talk to him and ask him about what he feels about the fact they didn't pick up his 5th-year option and where he's at in his rehab. And I understand that he's getting short with his answers, because I know I would be annoyed if everyone asked me after I was about something, the most frustrating thing in my entire life, and kept constantly asking me about it in public. I'd probably be pretty annoyed too. But the man has made millions of dollars and has not done anything for it. I feel like he just needs to shut up and answer the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I get the frustration. I really do. I wish I had the money that he had. I didn't really read much into that. So I can't really gauge what he said. Was this just recently? Like,
yeah, it's been
this weekend?
No, it's been in the last couple weeks. Since they've had organized team activities, there's been several different writers have talked to him about it. And the first one, that kind of irked me just was he was upset that the Bears didn't pick up his 5th-year option. And he didn't specifically say the Bears should have done it, because I think that would have been silly, but he just seemed annoyed, and he's like, whether they did or not, he's like, I'm going out there to prove something. And I don't know. I just don't understand what he would expect. Is the Bears have given him every opportunity. Last year, he was slated to be the number 1 wide receiver. After 2 years of season-ending injuries, they were like, you have the reins as the number 1 receiver, and without any competition, and he didn't do anything for it. Didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, it's Unfortunately, the circumstance calls to not re-up it, and obviously we all know why, and I get that he's frustrated. I really do, but it shouldn't be a mystery to anybody why that's the case.
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, and I mean, I think Matt Nagy's saying all the right things. Is they've talked about how he hasn't lost any speed or athleticism or anything, and that they're giving him a clean slate because they've never worked with him before. They don't have any history. They're not bringing any of the baggage, and those are all the right things. But honestly, it's going to be real hard for him to make this roster.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you brought in so much more talent that it's going to make it more challenging alone. But the fact that, he hasn't been able to play at all really in the NFL is just going to make it even harder.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You were only able to play in 5 games, but in those 5 games, you haven't even hit 200 total yards. So,
well, yeah, that's the other thing. It didn't look spectacular in the games he played. I just don't think that Kevin White, the type of receiver he is, I just not sure it really fits where this team is going, even if he is healthy.
I mean, the Bears, and the Bears rightfully so, have gone forward assuming that they're going to get nothing from Kevin White. Is they've retooled the wide receiver core, so they have 3 wide receivers that they feel very confident with. That can go out there and play. They've got multiple tight ends that they think can go out there and do something. They've got Tariq Cohen that they have had him practice at running back, all 3 wide receiver spots, and they have him all over the place. So they've got plenty of weapons. So if Kevin White is able to do anything, that's just gravy, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. You're not putting the pressure on Kevin White at this point. You're not bare bones like you were last year in wide receivers. You've added the depth pretty much everywhere. Like you said, tight end in addition to just the wide receiver position. And I mean, also don't forget you have Benny Cunningham too, who has more receiving yards than running back yards the past few years. The options are there. If you could get something out of Kevin White, that'd be great. But if you don't, at this point, at least you have plenty of other options where he doesn't make or break the offensive targets, if that's the easiest way I could put it. I mean, it's hard to make or break one guy for any team, but there was probably a lot more pressure on him the past few years when they didn't have a lot to throw to than there is now when they have much more to throw to.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't have any expectations on him. He can go out there and just play, knowing that if he gets hurt or if it takes him a few weeks to get in the groove of things, that it doesn't matter, is because at the absolute best, he's going to be the number 3 receiver on this team, probably the 4th. So it's for him. He doesn't have the expectations to have to go out there and be the number 1 receiver. Hopefully that helps. And I mean, honestly, go back to look at the tape of his last year at West Virginia. And the guy was described as a hybrid between Larry Fitzgerald and Des Bryant. So if you can get half of what those 2 guys are when you come back, that makes that Bears wide receiver core go from craptastic last year to woo boy this year.
Excuse me. Yeah, and the only thing you pray is that these guys stay healthy. Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, all of them. You pray that they could all stay on the field and play at least 13 games.
I want 16 games from everybody. I don't want anybody hurt.
Oh, I do too. I'm just saying, anything less than 13 games from one of those big guys would be really hard to take because you know that the talent is there, but it would be more frustrating just the way things have gone the past few years. The Bears have had, like more injuries than anyone, and they finally fill some essential needs. And to see them get hurt again would really be crushing, but it would almost be not surprising at this point. But, overall, they just got to stay healthy. All of them.
Absolutely. I read Sports Mockery posted a comment, and I thought it was worthwhile to talk about. It was, in 5 years, does Ryan Pace regret drafting Mitch Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson?
We got to see. Now, here's the other thing. Look, Deshaun Watson has all the talent in the world, but how many injuries has he had now? Major ones?
He's had at least 2 major knee injuries.
Right, so you always risk it with there. And now imagine if the same thing happened again and he was in Chicago. People would be calling for Pace's head because people would saying, oh, he got another injured player. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe Deshaun Watson comes back. He's incredible. Mitch Trubisky is meh. And, maybe it doesn't work. Or Mitch Trubisky is really good. He leads the Bears to the Super Bowl. The other quarterbacks are still good, but Mitch Trubisky is good for you, and he wins. At this point, I don't care what Watson or Mahomes or any of those other guys do. As long as Trubisky is good and he leads the Bears to a championship, I don't care what the others do. I really don't.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I don't want any of these guys to suck. They all seem like, great guys, and I hope that they, all are successful. But people are anointing Deshaun Watson as great already. And honestly, how many great games did he have? 3, 4? And if you look, is RG3 was phenomenal his rookie year. And then he just went downhill because they built a gimmick offense around him, and the league figured out the gimmick offense, and he couldn't recover from that. They've built an offense to work around Deshaun Watson, and the league is going to go, all right, well, we saw what he has, and we're going to try to stop that system. Can he beat us doing something else? If you try to take away from Tom Brady, throwing screen passes to the wide or to the running backs, you know what? He's going to beat you throwing 80-yard passes down the field. Like there's nothing you can take away that he can't just do something else. Deshaun Watson he seems like a great kid, but he had a lot of turnovers in college, and those things will usually follow you. So what did he do to fix that issue? And plus he's coming off of injury. Patrick Mahomes, he's got a big, strong arm, but honestly I think he would be a superstar in the 80s and early 90s, but that style of gunslinger mentality we saw with Jay Cutler. How well did that go?
Well, that was Jay Cutler to a T. He had as good an arm strength as any quarterback in the NFL, but you saw what happened when he played.
Yeah, and Brett Favre in today's NFL would be shunned because of how many turnovers he has, and turnovers are no-nos. Patrick Mahomes is a very Jay Cutler-ish type guy. The question could be turned around that do the Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs in 5 years, did they regret how much they had to give up for those two guys? And you can equally pose that question as you would the way it was originally posed is, does Ryan Pace regret not drafting those other two guys? Correct?
Right.
So it's infuriating to me that, all the onus is on the one guy who's played the most NFL games out of any of them, and who they hired a coach specifically to build around him and built an offensive system to help him out. Like, I just don't know why suddenly there's so many questions on Mitch Trubisky. It's like people want him to fail.
Yeah, I think that's just silly. It is. Why would you want to fail just to prove a point? If I'm pessimistic about something, about my team, I always pray that I'm wrong. I always want to be wrong when it comes to that thing. I think that's silly.
Yeah. I mean, like, and the coach that they brought in is implementing a system that took Alex Smith from being an NFL draft bust to an MVP candidate.
That was pretty amazing when you think about it, because for so many years, Alex Smith has just been kind of meh. But the last few years, go look at the numbers. Not a lot of people talk about it. They're good. They're really good.
Yeah, absolutely. They're really good. And honestly is Mitch Trubisky has a very similar skill set. Very athletic, smart, accurate thrower. And in San Francisco is they asked Alex Smith to be somebody he's not. If you ask Peyton Manning to be Randall Cunningham, not going to work. If you ask Tom Brady to run a system where he needs to scramble and roll out all the time, not going to be as good. You gotta have guys that are going to play in a system that fits their skill set. And we saw what he could do when you did. Granted, he played it way too safe a lot of the times, but he had that team playing really well. Yeah,
right. Exactly. That was fun to watch, even just as a football fan. It really was.
So I don't know. I'm excited about what's going to happen. My only concern is that this is a really complicated offense, and I've heard some word that there was some difficulties getting everybody on the same page during the first few OTA activities. And I think that's, you've given like 2 months to guys to learn a really complicated system that they've never seen before. I think it's probably going to take a little time, but we haven't even hit training camp yet.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Think about it. New players, a lot of youngsters, new coach. Of course, it's going to take some adjusting time. Think about it last year. How complicated was the offense last year? It's going to take some time to adjust. First week of OTAs shouldn't be, come on in and know everything and master everything. That's unrealistic. We got a whole rest of the summer into preseason to prepare. I think that when it's all said and done, everyone will be ready. Everyone will be on the same page. It's just going to take some time. There's so many factors that are involved in this as to why it's going to take a little time, and it's fine. It should be expected.
And honestly, I don't think he's going to give the whole playbook in one lump. He's going to break it up into chunks, and you're going to see more and more of it implemented as the season goes on. I don't think you're really going to see a full glimpse of what this offense is going to look like until at least the second half of the season. And, I think next year is a year, or this coming year is not one that you have a lot of high expectations because of how tough the division is.
Right.
You have the Super Bowl champion in your conference. You've got 3 really good teams in your division. You've got a Rams team that is like, they were a really good team last year and they just made a lot of upgrades on their defense. So there's a lot of good teams in the NFC. So if nothing else, is you just use this year to start the competing process. And next year is the year you go for it. And that would be year 2 in that offense. So I don't have a ton of high expectations, but I think we'll start seeing a progress. We'll see more competitiveness, and you're going to see actual signs of life on the offense. And rather than a team that has a playbook that looks like it was written on the back of a Denny's menu with a crayon.
Yeah, I think that for this coming season, there's going to be a lot of growing pains, especially early. Because, when I talked about everything coming together by season's beginning, it's like, well, that should be most people on the same page, but they're still going to have some growing pains when the season starts. So I think what you said it was best is that this is the year to really start to get things going, but it's not going to be the year they're going to contend for it all. At least I don't think. You never know. It could happen, but I think you said it best. I mean, let this year pretty much develop a lot of these guys, get the team used to the scheme, and then a lot of these rookies can get a sense for not only the NFL, but the division opponents that they're going to have to face year in and year out. Because, like we've said many times on the show before, if the Bears want to be a playoff team again, they're going to have to learn how to beat their division. There's no question about it.
Yeah, you've got to beat the Packers, and you've got to beat the Vikings.
And the Lions.
Absolute facts.
You got to beat all of them.
It's true. A couple more things. One is the rankings came out, and the Bears running back group was named fourth best in the NFL. And I started going through the list, and I was like, honestly, I would be very disappointed if they weren't ranked in the top 10 and felt like disrespected. But I got to number 10, and I was like, all right, they haven't been seen them yet, so I'm like, they have to be top 10. I'm like, I hit 5, and they're not there. They're ranked 4, and I was like, that makes me feel good that the league, national media is respecting the Bears enough to look at their running backs and say that's the fourth best group in football.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You have depth. You have versatile depth because you have the guy that could power through, Howard. You have the guy that could run, catch, Deke, Tariq Cohen. You have another guy that could catch and run in Benny Cunningham. And then some of the other guys you signed have potential to play smaller roles as well, kind of depending on who makes the roster. But the top 2 guys you have, are going to be productive, and they're going to be productive differently. It's not like you have 2 Jordan Howards or 2 Tariq Cohens. You have one of each. They can do multiple things. That's a really good thing to have.
Absolutely. I love the versatility. I love all the different things they can do. And we've seen Jordan Howard has been one of the best running backs in football since he's come in the league. And that's been on bad teams where everybody knows they're running. Is if we can get this team to where they can make a drive down the field without having a single run, suddenly that 8th man is not going to come down and cheat and come and sit in the box. He's going to have to play back. It's going to open lanes, and you would expect Jordan Howard to be able to run through those lanes. Plus, they've upgraded the interior of the offensive line, so you feel like that's going to be better for running the football. And Tariq Cohen is last year, you saw what he can do with a team that had no idea what they were doing with him. They were like, we've got this awesome weapon. We have no idea how to work it. You've got a guy now who's just been sitting there, like Mr. Burns, moving his fingers together, like, wah, thinking about what he can do with Tariq Cohen. So when you have a smart offense being able to use him, I think you're going to see a lot of cool things. And like you said, Benny Cunningham, is he flashy? No, but he is super versatile, and he can run, he can pass or catch, he can block. And he's one of the better backups in the league, and he's going to be very useful in this offense. So I'm excited to see what they do.
Absolutely. I think Tariq Cohen was another one of those guys that was so frustratingly handcuffed last year, even though you saw him do some big things. Like, how many times last year did we see Tariq Cohen not play like at all, unless it was just like a punt return or something? And we were all scratching our heads.
And then and then the media would lambaste the coaching staff of the Bears, and then suddenly the next week they would just be like, oh, well, we're going to pound him up the middle 17 times. And you're like, what are you doing? Like, they didn't know, and they would forget he was there, and then they would be like, oh, we got reminded, so let's
I
use
think
him
it's
next
a
week.
miracle that Jordan Howard wasn't just bought into mincemeat last year, just pounded into dust with the way he had to work. Really.
Oh, yeah, with how there was no wide receiver core, so everybody knew they were going to run. The offensive line was banged up. You were playing with all kinds of backups and people out of position, and they were just like, all right, well, we're gonna hand the ball off, and they still did fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, but think about it this coming year, not only are you going to have Jordan Howard be spread out with these other guys, but you're actually going to be seeing Jordan Howard do what he's able to do. Because remember, there were times last year where he was running routes and doing things that were just weird. Like, you remember that, right? Like, he was trying to go outside too much when he should just be powering forward. Like, it was just...
And that's a Bears thing, is, let's have Jordan Howard run a stretch play, and let's have Tariq Cohen, run it through the A gap. That's why that last year's coaching staff got fired.
Right. Exactly.
But also, there was a ranking of the offensive line units in football, and the Bears were ranked 21st, which I think is fair. They're not one of the worst, but they're far from the best. I think there's plenty of room for them to move up, depending on what Harry Hiestand is going to do with the tackles. I think if Kyle Long is healthy, I think that interior of the offensive line, the center and two guards, is going to be really good. And ultimately, I think if you switch your guard and center position, you're going to even be better. It's going to be what do they do with the two tackles? Can Harry Hiestand improve those two tackles? Can they develop offensive systems that minimize the amount of time that those two are going to have to block edge rushers, rolling out or quick throws and things to wear those guys out, running at another thing you can do with edge rushers that are beating you on the outside is run at them and force them to be, to not pin their ears back but have to play on their heels a little bit. What kind of things are they going to do to help them out? And I think that's going to ultimately tell the story of this Bears offensive line, because I think 21st is a pretty fair assessment.
Absolutely.
At this point. So hopefully Harry Hiestand can squeeze some life out of our tackles, and hopefully the health bug is finally the health gods are finally with Kyle Long, because we need him. We need him to play well.
He's really important. He's been one of the more important players on this team. I'm just worried that he's not going to be able to play to his Pro Bowl self again because of all those surgeries, all those procedures. But hey, he works hard, he plays hard, so maybe it will return to normal phase. But again, just so many injuries he's had, it makes it harder and harder for him.
Yeah, I don't have the highest of expectations. I think we're going to see a lot of Eric Kush, but fingers crossed.
Yeah, I guess expect just decent.
I just hope healthy.
Well, I mean, if he is healthy.
Yeah, I don't see him being bad, being at that guard spot, but will he be good? That's the question. So I think we'll be able to tell a lot more come training camp when we see how healthy he is and how he's moving. Because if he looks like he's running okay, then my expectations will be a lot higher. If we see him look sluggish and slow, then the expectations are going to go down.
Yeah, exactly.
But the last thing I want to talk about with the Bears is the NFL changed the kickoff rule again. So now if a ball is kicked into the end zone, it's an automatic touchback. You can't return it from the end zone. Also is they are, the rule is that you have to have 5 blockers on each side of the field. So you can't create a wedge anymore. I think the concern was that the wedge busting is what was causing a lot of injuries on kickoffs and a lot of head injuries. So now it's going to wind up being a lot more one-on-one blocking, similar to what you have on punt returns. And Tariq Cohen said he's very excited about it because he likes returning the punts better. So it gives him, more of a punt return feel. I don't know if we're going to see the same results, but I think having him in a punt return role is, in a kickoff return where it's much more like punt returns. I think that does bode well for a guy of his quickness.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Because Devin Hester was a guy who was unique that could do kickoffs and punts both at just a Hall of Fame level, but kickoff returns took a different type of mentality. It was a little more fearless, as you were like, I'm hitting this, this place, and I'm just going to, run knowing that somebody could be right there, trusting my blocks. The punts is a lot more of a, I have a vision and I see a hole. And the guy was able to do it, but Tariq Cohen, I think the quickness of that he has and the ability to stop and start on a dime is going to bode well if he ever sees kicks, because most guys now kick it into the end zone.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't really have any Blackhawks or Bulls things. Do you?
Nah.
I figure we could talk a little more next week because the NBA draft is like 2 weeks away. And we could talk a little more hockey once we have the NHL draft and see what direction the Blackhawks are moving, and have a pretty high pick. So we'll talk a little more about that then. But until those things happen, we'll sit quietly. White Sox. I want to talk a few things about there. Now, I think at least one thing you can take a guess at.
Eloy Jimenez?
No, I was going to talk a different ex-Cub.
Oh, Wellington Castillo. Yeah.
Yeah. So White Sox, Wellington Castillo hit with 80-game suspension for using a banned substance. And the only thing refreshing about it is he straight up admitted to it.
Yeah, he did. He didn't try to say, "Oh, I didn't know. I didn't do this. I didn't do." He said, "Yeah, you got me."
Yeah, I mean, he was like, "I'm sorry. I made a bad choice. I let a lot of people down." And at least he was honest and upfront about it, and that felt good.
Yeah, exactly. It's easier to forgive someone who just come out and says, "Hey, I messed up."
Yeah. I don't want to, like, I'm really angry at a lot of guys that used it and never fessed up. And even when they were caught, still try to be like, well, no, it was just a supplement I was on, that they must have changed the formula or, whatever. But he was honest. So it's the lying sometimes that gets me more than the cheating. And he was at least honest about it. And that makes me more likely to want to forgive him.
Exactly. I think a lot of people appreciated that.
So yeah, he's 80 game suspension, which I mean, luckily it happened now with the White Sox, and rather than next year or the year after when they're actually competing and have things to play for. Now it's, you know, they're a bad team, and they're it's just going to help them get a better draft pick, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's got to be frustrating for some of those pitchers, but what are you going to do?
Those pitchers are frustrating on their own. So
yeah, that's true.
I saw another headline of an article, and I didn't click on the actual article, but it said, "Will the White Sox be buyers or sellers at the deadline?"
Really?
And I stopped and I was like, what the F? Like, really? Is that a legitimate question?
I mean, what would they buy? I mean, would the argument be for Manny Machado, which wouldn't make any sense whatsoever? I don't know.
Like, I mean, if Manny Machado is the only even remote thing, and I still don't think that makes any sense. Does Manny Machado make sense for this to be on this team? Oh yeah, absolutely. He makes sense to be on a lot of different teams, but if you're the White Sox, it doesn't make any sense to make a big trade for him when he's a rental in a season where you have, are the White Sox the worst record in baseball?
I think they're there. They're near it.
I mean, they definitely have a worse record than the Marlins.
Yeah. I'm going to look up the standings right now.
So the White Sox are one of, if not the worst record in baseball. So it's not like he's going to help them this year. And is the thinking that, oh, well, they'll see how great it is to play for the White Sox for half a season. No, is he doesn't care. Is you will just have to pony up the money next year. So if you want him in the offseason, don't trade anybody and just offer the most money in the offseason. That's how you get him.
The Sox currently have the lowest winning percentage at 320. They have the fewest wins, but not the most losses, it looks like.
The Royals have the most losses?
Baltimore.
Oh, Baltimore. So Machado would just be going from a bad team to a bad team.
Right. I mean, at this point, the Sox they just got to go out there, groom their young guys, whether it's in the farm system or on the major league level. The guys who are up right now, you groom them. The guys that are down below, you groom them. And when they're ready, if they're ready, bring them up, which I'm sure you'll see a lot of those guys come up throughout the year. That's what this year is about. It's a full rebuilding year.
Yeah. And do I see the White Sox as being sellers? No, what do they have to sell?
They have nothing to sell. They're just going to stand pat and work on their rebuild.
Is some of, you had a few guys that you were hoping, fingers crossed, that would perform well enough that you could flip at the deadline, like some of the veteran bullpen arms, but they've been lousy. James Shields, that I think I've read somewhere that maybe the White Sox trade James Shields. Why? What are you going to get for that? You're going to have to take on part of his salary to get anything for him. And so why not have a guy that's at least going to eat innings for you? Because you got to get through innings. So might as well have a guy that's going to eat some of them if you're paying him anyway. And so I just don't see it. I don't see the White Sox making any moves in this offseason or in this by the trade deadline. They're just going to be standing pat, waiting for their young studs to come through.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what they're going to be working on. I don't think that. I mean, I'm really legit trying to think of what they'd be able to sell. I can't think of anything. You're planning to keep Wellington Castillo probably, when he comes back. I don't think you're going to trade him or anything. He won't even be eligible for playoffs regardless. Yeah, I can't think of anyone.
Yeah, so I think they stand pat, and I would be surprised if they didn't stand pat. One other bit of news with the White Sox is Carlos Rodon had a minor league start in rehab. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. I don't know how it went, but I just knew that he was starting in the minors.
Yeah, he started for Charlotte on Thursday, and he pitched 2 2/3, 1 hit, no runs, 6 strikeouts, no walks.
Well, that's a good sign.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, the no walks thing is the best sign.
That's the
for
biggest
me.
thing. Yeah, I was gonna. The first thing I was gonna look at was how many walks he had, but yeah, that's a good stat.
Nope, no walks. So, I mean, that's a good sign. Hopefully, he can bounce back to form here. And I just sort of wanted to go walk through. You know, it's been a few weeks since we talked about some of the White Sox prospects, but you know, I went through the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys as far as the rankings of the White Sox minor league system. And Eloy Jimenez is just crushing it. 9 home runs, 331 average, 992 OPS. He's going to be up soon. He's going to be up in the majors soon. There's nothing else for him to be in the minors for.
Oh yeah, I mean, what else is he going to do down there? It's time to give him some time. I don't know. When do you think they're going to bring him up? July?
They'll bring him up as whatever the earliest date is that they can keep that last year of arbitration.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, so I'd have to.
I don't know what that date. I think it's in June.
June, July, yeah.
Yeah, so they'll bring him up as probably 2 days after that, so it doesn't look like it was too much like what it is, but which I don't know, it's silly anyway, that extra year of arbitration, because you're paying the guy the same as you would in a long-term contract anyway by that point, if he's worth it. But whatever, you get that extra year of arbitration. I guess it's guaranteed he's on your team. But it's silly at this point to not have him up. Is, you know, he's a peacock. You got to let him fly.
Okay, other guys.
Michael Kopech, he's 1-2 with a 3.97 ERA, 61 strikeouts and 23 walks. I don't know if that's really what you expected out of him. I mean, you know, he's got quite a few strikeouts, and the strikeout to walk ratio is roughly 3-1, which is okay. But that almost 4 ERA and double A is not what you were hoping for with, you know, your number one pitching prospect.
He thinks he needs some work himself. He even admitted it. We might have talked about it on the last show, but yeah, I think it's pretty clear that there is some tuning that still needs to be done. Don't rush with him. Just do what you can to get him ready, because there are a lot of good signs with him, and then there are times when, you know, there's clearly room for improvement. I don't know if it was his last start or the start before, where he threw a bunch of pitches early and he couldn't get very far. And then the start before that, he went like 7 innings and struck out a ton of guys. So you just got to help find him some consistency, work out a few kinks, and you bring him up when he's ready. Don't rush him. Just don't rush him. That's the biggest thing I'd emphasize.
Yeah, I think rushing a hitter, I guess like rushing anybody in baseball too early can ruin them. Hitters, you can break their confidence. You know, pitchers is, I guess, the same thing. You got to groom a guy and give him a taste. And there's certain guys that they step right in, and once they're in the majors, they're in the majors. But not everybody's like that. Is a lot of guys will have to take a dip back down in the minors, you know, to work out a few kinks. So, I mean, with Eloy Jimenez, that guy, there's nothing else. You got to give him at least a taste of the majors, because he's just clobbering minor league pitching. But Kopech still has things to work on, so you don't need him. You're a bad team. Just let him work out all those kinks in the minors, and then bring him up once he's proven that you know, he can't really do any more, and because there's only so much you can progress in the minors. You have to go to the majors to take that next step, and he hasn't hit that point where he's got to go to the majors to get to the next step. It would be a big step for him to go up to get where he needs to be by going to the majors. Right,
and that's like the opposite with Eloy Jimenez. He's ready for the majors, I think. He can't prove anything more down there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe show some more home run power, but Man, he's got some really good power, but other than that, he's clobbering it. Just, let him come up and face some major league pitching. Number 3, Luis Robert. The guy, his BABIP is 400. He's only got a 20% K rate.
I'm sorry,
and
who?
A 310. Luis Robert.
Oh, Luis Robert. I forgot about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's in low ball, but 400 BABIP, 20% K rate for an international player, and a 310 batting average. You're seeing good things from him. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a promotion for him, not to the majors certainly, but to a higher minor league affiliate.
Yeah, because he's the one guy that I just keep forgetting about because they signed him, they didn't trade for him, if that makes sense. And he's way down there, so he's a ways away. The reason why it's so easy to keep track of these other guys is that they're in AAA. They're very accessible to the media. People see all levels of baseball, but you see the AAA games on TV. You see a lot of reports on them. So their information is a bit more seen in the public eye. Let's just say that.
Alec Hansen was the 4th ranked prospect, and he's close to returning from a forearm injury, so he hasn't pitched yet. So we don't know what we'll see from him. And then another name Cubs fans will know, Dylan Cease. 6-2 with a 2.83 ERA, 57 strikeouts to 20 walks. So again, he's not that high up in the minor league system, but so far he's been playing pretty well. Not a lot of holes in the game so far for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that had all the ceiling. When he was in the Cubs system, the big concern was the injuries, but the talent was never a question. I follow Emily Walden on Twitter. She is the absolute queen of MILB scouting. She could tell you everything. She could analyze anything. She is awesome. And she talked about Dylan Cease, about some of the times that she's been observing him. And it's just a lot of good things. Just a lot of really good things about this guy. Nasty stuff. He could be really special in the major leagues if he does indeed stay healthy.
And then the last guy, the 6th ranked guy, is Dane Dunning. 2.59 ERA. But the stat that really shocked me is 31 strikeouts to 3 walks. That's the number I like to see. Is that means it's just the command is there.
I'm just curious.
And
I'll look that up.
I don't have that on. Yeah, but I was like, wow, that's actually impressive. The 2.59 ERA is nice, but 3 walks. Woo. So there's another guy that you could probably see getting a promotion sooner rather than later.
And you said this was in A-ball?
I think he's in A-ball.
Yeah, so I'm looking at his stats on MILB.com. He's been in Birmingham and High A. In High A, his whip was 0.95, where he had the 2.59 ERA.
That's a nice whip. Anything under a 1, you're happy with.
Yeah. In Birmingham, it's 1.48 in 31.2 innings. I don't know I would assume he started in A and then went to Birmingham. I don't know if it was the opposite for whatever reason, but yeah. Overall, though, 3.41 ERA in AA. On the year, 2.83, a whip of 1.14. Things are looking pretty good with him.
Yeah, and you're always going to see a dip when you go to another level. That's always apparent. Whether you're hitter or pitcher, you see that bump down because that dip down because it's a new set of players. It's a next level up of competition. So I expect Dane Dunning to revert back to closer to what he was in single A, but some of those numbers were hard to repeat.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, White Sox fans, your team sucks right now, but the future is bright. I mean, you're seeing guys tear it up in the minors, and eventually all of those guys are going to be in the majors, and you'll be overflowing with riches.
No doubt. There's one last thing I wanted to ask your opinion about White Sox related. What do you think is the right thing to do with Lucas Giolito right now?
I always lean towards bringing a guy back down, but it sort of depends on the attitude he has. If everything seems like the confidence hasn't wavered, the thing you don't want to do is ruin a kid's confidence. Is if the attitude is still there that like, I can do this, it's just this or this I'm doing wrong and I need to work on this, and you see him working on it and everything seems fine. All right, you know what? You're a bad team. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. The stats don't matter. But if you feel any way, shape, or form that his confidence is wavering, or there's significant kinks that you got to work out, then you got to send him down to the minors to fix those. But if you feel like that the tweaks that you need to do to get him to where he needs to be or where he should be are minor, minor mechanical things, or he's struggling. If you look at advanced metrics and you're seeing he's just struggling with his pitch selection, whatever the case, maybe it's something that's not major and his confidence isn't wavering, then you can keep him up. I mean, even if he struggles still, you don't worry about that. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, it's just, you look at both scenarios, whether you keep him up and you keep pitching him or you send him down. I mean, right now, things for Giolito, they're not just bad, they're really bad. Now, when it comes to the whole attitude thing, I think you just got to sit down and explain to him if what they want to do is send him down, if that is what they think should happen, they got to sit down with him and say, look, you want to be good, right? You want to be successful. We believe you will be successful, but you may have to go down to the minors for some tuning. I mean, there's a point where you kind of have to look at yourself and be like, if things aren't going well now, let's go fix it. And if that means going down to the minors, then do it. I know it's easier said than done. I'm not a ball player. I never was. I never will be a major league ball player. But I don't know if him going out there every day and getting his brains beat in without making some major adjustments, with the ability to do that in the minors, away from all the pressure, away from all that, I don't know if it's going to do him any good. So, maybe a minor league stint would be good for him. But
I back that. I mean, that's sound logic. My question is, who picks up his innings?
Well, I mean, at this point, it's not like you have to go shopping for a guy. I'm sure you could just call someone up to fill in. It's not like you're playing for a division title right now.
I wonder if you'll see him stay up until Rodon is ready to return to the starting rotation, and then you just swap him out, because that would make an easy transition, because when Rodon comes back, you're going to have to put him in the rotation, and this way it doesn't have to really be a hard decision. You're like, all right, well, we wanted to send him down anyway. Maybe that's where they're at. I don't know how many rehab starts Rodon is going to do, but maybe that's the thinking there, because you need somebody to take a spot.
Yeah, I mean, that could very well be. You'll still have Shields. You'll still have Lopez. I know, what's his face? Dylan Covey. I think he's back up. He's pitching there. Miguel Gonzalez is hurt. Yeah, he did. And then Hector Santiago, you'll have him as well. So, yeah, maybe they will do that. In rebuilds, you have a bit more flexibility because there's not as much, we have to chase down a division title. But, in a rebuild, you just kind of need someone to hold down the fort. I'm looking at the White Sox rotation right now, and I think we could all talk about how just awesome Reynaldo Lopez has been. I mean, he's really looked good so far. 24 years old. He has only room to grow. You know what else is kind of strange? James Shields has actually been pretty decent lately.
He really has. Honestly, I mean, the funny thing is before this contract is he was a hot commodity, and then he just fizzled out after he signed a big deal. So, it was more. I don't know if you were more surprised that he sucked for a few years, or if that's more surprising, or if it's that he's starting to pitch better is the surprising part. It depends on your frame of reference.
Well, James Shields was so good for a while, but he's been not good the past, 3 years? So I don't know if I'm really shocked because, I mean, I'm not saying he's pitching like a Cy Young, but, he's going 7 innings, giving up around 3 runs, it seems like, per game. I mean, those are solid starts. Like, you can't complain about those.
Yeah, those are kind of, I mean, that's what you expect from a back end guy in a good team. But I mean, those are numbers that keep you in a game. It doesn't eat up your bullpen. It keeps you in a game that, after the 7th inning, you only have given up 3 runs. That's a solid start. I mean, I think the Cubs would take that, over a lot of the starts that they've had this year.
Yeah, I'll get into that in a minute. But look at James Shields' numbers right now on the season, and keep in mind that this has included some bad James Shields-like starts. But considering he had those, a 4.62 ERA, a 4.02 FIP, I mean, that's not, like, overall that's not good, but that's not terrible. Now, if you look at his game logs, because you kind of got to break it down. The ERA is high because there have been some bad starts in there. But if you look at the number of decent starts that he's had, his last 3 starts, he's gone 7 innings. And he's given up 3 runs or less. In fact, he's only given up more than 4 runs once since May 1st. So you got to give him credit. He's been solid. The only really bad start he had in the past 2 months was against the Cubs.
Yeah, I would take a lot of those starts over what you've gotten from Kyle Hendricks, Jose Quintana, Tyler Chatwood, Yu Darvish, etc.
Yeah, I got some stuff to say about some of that.
Yeah, let's just swing on over there. Let's just swing on right into the Cubs.
Yeah.
Yu Darvish on the disabled list with tricep soreness, which was a precursor to his
Tommy John surgery.
Tommy John surgery that he had a few years ago, which is not good. Because the saying is that you have that first Tommy John injury and you come back better than you were before. You have that second one and then you're done.
Well, I mean, my hope is that it's not serious. They're going to have the MRI Tuesday. It's not like we were watching Yu Darvish go out there and he had already lost a bunch of velocity because he was throwing as hard as ever his past few starts. He was hitting 96 a lot. So he was still throwing fine. I'm just praying that it's just some soreness and discomfort. But, I don't know.
And the interesting thing is they brought up Chris Jimenez and they sent Victor Caratini down, but they were like, well, no, he's not going to be Darvish's personal catcher. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be personal catcher, but you'd feel that, assuming Darvish's injuries aren't serious, that you start trying him out with the guy, and if you get better results, then maybe he becomes your personal catcher. Let's not joke around here.
Well, okay, let's say Darvish does come back and he's set to pitch. I think you got to put Jimenez in there. And even if they say, oh, he's not going to be a personal catcher, what I would hope that would mean is saying, okay, maybe he'll get a few more starts outside just being a personal catcher. So maybe he'll catch Kyle Hendricks a few times, or he'll catch John Lester a few times. Because I could see that. There are times where I think Lester gets a little frustrated with Contreras. But I think you got to at least put the two together if Darvish is indeed okay and he will pitch again.
And I think if the next time Darvish pitches, if Jimenez isn't the catcher, I think you're going to have a lot of people that are really upset and say, this is the reason that Joe Madden makes me so mad. Is he's so stubborn. He'll just do the opposite of what you want him to do just to do it.
Yeah, there's been some frustrating moments with Joe Madden recently that I'm going to get into, but that would probably be one of them. Another one on the list.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, Friday that Ian Happ went back to leadoff?
I think it was Friday. I missed the first half of that game. I came home and saw the last few innings. I know he led off at some point. Can I just air some grievances right now about Joe Madden? Can I just spew all of them?
Let it be Festivus. Air your grievances.
I got a lot of problems with you, people. Okay,
yeah,
so
we can air the grievances, then we'll do the feats of strength.
Not the feats of strength. Okay, so here we go. Today, why is Jason Hayward in the lineup against the lefty? Why is he in the lineup?
Is that rhetorical, or are you asking me?
Both. Both.
I don't know. I don't know why Jason Hayward is in the lineup at all. What's he batting, like 220?
So did you see my Cubby's Crib article that I wrote just Friday about Jason Hayward's, what his new role should be?
I have not. I haven't really been online since
Thursday. Basically what I said is he shouldn't be an everyday player. If you are going to start him against right-handed pitchers. And then if not, you have him come in as a late defensive guy because he could still provide you Gold Glove defense. Or I know you don't pinch hit much anymore, but you could, or not pinch hit, pinch run. You could pinch run with him because he is a pretty good base runner. You can still get some value out of him, but you're not going to get value out of the bat. I think that ship has sailed. And frankly, I'm disappointed by it because some scouts have come ahead and said that his swing just looks awful. I don't know what the Cubs did to him in 2016, but they completely wrecked it. It's frustrating because Hayward had a good track record. He had a great offensive year in 2015, and he had some really good years in Atlanta. Was he ever the superstar that he was said to be? No, but he was still an all-star caliber player. That's why he got so much money. And then like the Cubs wanted to try to add a few more power strokes to him, and I think just completely messed him up. And I don't know if we're ever going to get that back. I think at this point that ship has kind of sailed. He's not going to be an overly productive hitter. You can get the value out of him in other things, but not with the bat.
You'll never get that contract value ever again. And all those opt-outs that he has in the contract, he's not opting out.
No.
Because he's not going to get that kind of money. He is going to be here for the life of that contract.
And here's the thing. There'll always be a little bit of it worth it because he did give you the Gold Gloves. He was a great defender. He's a great teammate. And we all know what happened in Game 7. So, I'm glad that they at least got something out of that for as disappointing as the bat has been. But, overall, it looks like it's never going to pay off like we hoped it would.
I mean, it's never going to pay off. And Joe is so stubborn. Why isn't Albert Elmore getting more playing time? He's earned it. He deserves it
every day.
What's that?
He should be in there most days. He should be.
Yeah, he should be in there most days. He should be in there every day until he shows he doesn't need to be.
Exactly.
And Ian Happ has not shown that he needs to be in there every day. Jason Hayward hasn't shown he needs to be in there every day. And frankly, Kyle Schwarber has had some disappointments recently. I thought we were seeing better of him the first month of the season, and then he's really dipped down. I mean, he's shown some
last few games he's been better.
But you've seen much better with his arm.
Yeah, that
arm is nice. But he is, Albert Almora is showing that he's the best outfielder we have.
Yeah, right now he is. He absolutely is. Here is another thing that I wanted to point out for Jason Hayward. The last thing I wanted to point out about Jason Hayward, going back to the whole starting against lefty thing, his splits coming into this game against lefties, 143, 226, 143 /line. Can you say yick?
It's terrible. And Joe's like, well, the nerds are, they tell me what to do. Well, clearly you're not listening, because nobody's going to tell you to bat somebody with stats like that against, the person that they're hitting those stats against. Those are bad.
I mean, come on, that's basic stuff. I'm not a manager, but come on.
Yeah, I mean, Joe can say, oh, there's things that the fans don't know, but I know. You know what I know? Jason Hayward can't hit lefties.
No, his splits against righties, 250, 337, 405, significantly better. Not groundbreaking, but 337 on base is technically above average. He does have better at bats against righties. So why is he in there against a lefty? If you want to start Hayward, fine, but make sure that the guy's a right-handed pitcher.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is basic stuff.
Absolutely.
I'm not usually a guy that bashes Joe Madden, and I don't try to question the intelligence of a big league manager. I oftentimes feel like I don't have the right to, but this is just something that eats away at me.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what do I know as much about baseball as Joe Madden? No. That's why he makes multi-millions of dollars a year managing a baseball team, and I don't. But there are definite things that I know, and I know that Jason Hayward can't hit lefties, so playing him against a lefty doesn't make any sense. I mean, if it's a spot coming off the bench and you're like, I don't have anybody else. All right, well, whatever. I just don't see them starting. Who's starting the game, is make your lineup accordingly.
Yeah, exactly. A personal opinion of mine, if you want to play Ian Happ in the outfield and you want to have Jason Hayward in there as well, I say swap their positions. Put Hayward in center and put Happ in right, because I'm not huge on Happ in center.
He's got the speed for it, but he just doesn't have the instincts.
Well, you saw last night what happened. He had a bad break towards the ball, and it ended up opening up the inning, and the Giants took the lead. I think that I would rather have Happ in right field, and Hayward is a great outfielder. I think he's played a decent amount in center field before, so I'd say you just swap the two. That's not one that I want to bash Joe Madden for, but it is something I do kind of feel like, maybe that's a route they should go. That's more of an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, the old school thinking was you put your fastest outfielder in center field because they have the most ground to cover, and Ian Happ is the fastest outfielder the Cubs have.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clear, but his instincts, because he's not a natural outfielder. And when it comes to to optimize that speed, is having, you're not running 40-yard dashes out there. You're making a break on a ball. And if another guy has the experience and the instincts to get a better jump on that ball, then you're just negating all the speed that that he has on you, and Jason Hayward can do that. Is for all the terribleness that he gives you at the plate, is the guy's a good outfielder, and I don't think Ian Happ's a terrible outfielder, but putting him at center field really accentuates his flaws as an outfielder.
Well, when you're in the center field, you're the captain. You're the guy out there. And it's tough. Being a center fielder is very, very tough.
Can we talk about... sorry, go ahead.
I just had one more thing I wanted to discuss. One last kind of frustrating thing with a decision Joe Madden made this past week. You can probably guess where I'm going with this when I talk about the 1-0 loss against Cleveland.
I think so, but let's see.
When you have your first baseman at third with nobody outs, who doesn't run very well, and you have your leader in RBIs bunting, that to me is ludicrous.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. Terrible.
That's ludicrous. Even if Baez strikes out, you still have a runner at third with less than 2 outs.
It's a, I can see the thought of if you have a runner at second and have Javi Baez bunt, because he's a very good bunter and he can bunt for a single because he's fast enough and he's good enough. But that's because when you're charging in to throw to third is a really awkward throw. And it's going to make it harder to throw to third. But when you're charging in on a bunt, what's the base you're facing? The easiest one to throw to? Home. Doesn't make sense. So I fully
flip it right to him.
I fully agree with you. I mean, runner on first or runner on second, and you're going to let Javi Baez try to bunt for a single. I'm not going to argue with you. I won't argue with it. But in this situation, fully agree. And there's a lot of things in that 1-0 loss. Is who led that game off? Who was the leadoff hitter on that game? Oh, the guy that can't hit. I wish I could see the run differentials of when each of the different guys bats leadoff. Almora versus Zobrist versus Happ. What the team does as far as run output when those guys are leading off versus each other. Like, I'm curious. I would imagine that Albert Almora, when he's the leadoff hitter, the Cubs offense has been clicking way more.
You want to know something great about Albert Almora too? His righty versus lefty splits are identical. Coming into this game, they are completely identical. 315, 370, 402 righty, 317, 370 again, 515 versus lefties. So he is hitting, he's slugging a bit more against lefties. Obviously, it's kind of typically how that goes. But the average and the on base, it's exactly the same. Remember how much crap he got for not being able to hit righties? Well.
Yeah, I mean, the guy should be in there every day until he proves that you should take him out and bench him for somebody else. And honestly, can you send Jason Hayward down to Iowa?
No, I don't think you can.
He doesn't have any options? No options there?
I don't think so. And I don't think they would do that.
I would like to see him maybe he can get, quote, hurt and get some rehab starts. I would just like to see him get some at-bats against guys that aren't that great compared to Major League pitching, and see if they can work anything out, because it's so frustrating. And Joe loves having him in, and it drives me crazy
It's just too bad because, he was such a talented player coming in,
Yeah, the you know, Theo got us a World Series, but then he's also got us some pretty awful contracts now on our hands, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is that the Cubs aren't strapped for cash, so it's not like money's tight, but it's still kind of annoying when you have to deal with that sometimes. The Hayward contract, he's going to be here for a while, unless he's traded or
Was it a 6-year or 7-year?
8-year.
Oh. Yeah, he's going to be here a long time.
And I want to hold out hope that he can improve. I just, after 2.5 years, and when I say improve, I'm just talking at the plate. I'm not talking about all the things he does well. I'm just talking at the plate. I mean, last year, if you look at his numbers, his batting numbers, his slash line, they were like the definition of average, of MLB average. Is it what you want to pay all that money for? Not necessarily, but at this point, I would take average.
Average at the plate and great in the outfield and great on the base path. And you'll take that. I mean, at this point, compared to the alternative, which we've seen.
Right, exactly. Now, the thing about Hayward that's also really frustrating when you just watch, every time he swings and hits a fly ball, it looks like it's going to go 10,000 feet. And then it ends up going 250 feet. Is his swing like not the most deceptive when it makes contact?
I feel like he hits what I call pointers. It's when he hits it, all the position players point up at the ball because it's so high. Somebody's got to figure out who's going to catch it.
Yeah, no, he does. He hits the ball really high. And how many times has he crushed a home run distance ball that's fouled by like 10 feet? How many times have we seen that?
More than I'd like to count or talk about.
And how many times has Hayward had some poor swings and then finally hit a ball really hard, really well, but it goes right to someone?
What is his BABIP?
I looked that up. That is a good question. All right, so let's see. Good old Fangraphs here is the answer to all questions baseball. Oh, cool. Hayward just hit a double off the wall. As we're talking about him. Oh, wait, that could be a triple. It is. He just hit a triple off the wall.
Look at that.
Off a righty. Okay, so his BABIP is 237.
Yeah, I'm making just smelled something awful face.
His BABIP last year was 284. His BABIP in 16 was 266. In St. Louis, when he had that really good year, 329. You want to know something really kind of weird? Like, I don't know why I got this thought. Hayward is almost like the outfield Darwin Barney.
That's a funny comparison.
Superb defender, hits the ball on the ground, doesn't strike out a lot. He is at least always making contact. He never strikes out. That's what Barney never struck out. But how many times did he hit a ground ball right at someone or pop out? That's it's kind of weird, but that's kind of how I've seen him as a Cub.
So, do we talk Tyler Chatwood?
Yeah, I think we have to.
So, in his last 2 starts, he has gone 5 1/3 innings combined with 11 walks.
Yeesh. Yeesh.
He hasn't made it out of the third inning the last two starts.
Not good.
No, it's not good.
Not great, Bob. Not great, Bob.
I don't. I mean, we've seen some pretty decent starts from him, and I don't know what's going on here. I mean, the wheels just came off.
Well, here's the thing. I like the stuff he has, but how many starts did he have where he walked 6-7 guys and gave up 1 or 2 runs? If you walk that many guys in starts like that, you're eventually going to get burned. Like, you can't keep doing that.
I saw, I think it was a tweet today, or was it late yesterday? It was the Cubs fans' minds will be at ease if the Cubs get a win today. Something along those lines.
Yeah, I said, yeah, that's exactly what I said.
And I was like, stuck at traffic, and I was checking my tweets, and I was like, oh, I'm going to respond. And then the light went green, so I just put it away. But I was like, I was going to text a win with a quality pitching start would put my mind at ease. And, they're winning significantly right now, but not a quality pitching start.
No, not at all. Not at all. Oh, looks like it's now 8-3 Cubs. Tommy La Stella hit an RBI single pinch hit, and then, let's see, Albert Almora, the man, just hit an RBI double off the wall.
Yeah, so with Darvish on hopefully only a 10-day disabled list, and Tyler Chatwood stinking it up, what do you do with this rotation? Quintana had his issues yesterday.
Okay, that's another thing I'd like to talk about, but I'll get to that after your point.
Lester's the only pitcher you have that's pitching consistently well. And he was the one.
Hendricks is doing well.
Hendricks has had a couple of rough starts.
Yeah, but his last few, I think, have been overall pretty solid, if I remember correctly.
He's not getting hit hard, but there's been a bunch of solo home runs and a bunch of blooper, not hard hit balls that are landing. It's not what we've seen from him the last 2 years. You don't feel as confident with him on the mound as you have in the past 2 years. At least I don't.
Yeah, I thought his last start was really encouraging. He looked great against the Giants. That was really encouraging. I was never really that worried about him, honestly.
No, it's just the number of home runs he's given up has been pretty hard to swallow. But his approach and everything looked the same. Attitude's the same. I just didn't know what the difference was. Where, if it was just the weather making grip harder, that, because he needs perfect location to not get clobbered. But I don't know. We'll see if that trend continues, or if you see a lot less home runs as the summer goes on.
Yeah, that's what you can hope for. Before I get into Quintana, the quick thing I will say is, and hopefully I don't jinx his next start, but boy, John Lester has just been grinding away and just nailing it down.
Yeah, I think that he was the big question mark in this rotation going into the season, and he just shut everybody up.
I mean, the guy's John Lester, man. He's just awesome. That's all I gotta say. He's doing exactly what he has been told to do. This, I think, in my opinion, the best free agent signing that Theo has made, far and away, is John Lester.
And it's funny is after the first half of his first season with the Cubs, how many people were writing about what a bad contract it was and a mistake, and and it's probably the same people that are writing that about the Darvish signing.
Well, yeah,
or the Quintana trade.
Yeah, I mean, he got off to a little bit of a rough start. Lester did, I know that, but by the second half of 2015, he was John Lester again.
So I don't know. He's looked really good this year. Does not look his age. Hopefully we can get this same John Lester for the rest of this contract.
Yeah, I mean, everything else is gravy with him. Everything else is gravy.
So you want to talk Quintana? So I
Yes.
saw some of your thoughts, and I'm curious to hear you explain them a little bit.
Yeah, I thought Quintana was way better than his line showed. His start against the Giants. He was sharp. He was getting a lot of swings and misses. You know, early the command looked good. Think about the runs that were scored. Probably the biggest bugaboo I had with him is the walks he did have. The one walk that led to the home run. A home run line drive that was wind-aided. And then you had Happ misjudging the ball, a run, all starting with a runner that scored because he hit a chopper that bounced over Bryant's head. I think I read somewhere on StatCast that all those hits had like less than a 50% chance of being hits. I just thought that was a complete, just unlucky, cruel start for Quintana and that he was a lot better than he was. Probably the biggest mistake, though, even though the ball should have been caught, the location of the fastball that he threw to McCutchen was not that great. But still, that ball should have been caught. And if that ball is caught, I bet you that inning is over and the Cubs are still up 3-2. And then he could have gone into the 6th inning. And if he would have gotten through that, he probably would have gone 6 innings, 2 runs. I mean, you don't know for sure what he would have done in the 6th inning, but I thought there was a lot of bad fortune for Quintana. And I don't think any frustration over him was really as warranted as a few other starts.
I think it would be there'd be a lot quieter of people talking about it if he didn't have other rough starts. If that was like the blip or one of 2 blips in the radar, there's been quite a few blips. And I see your point. And, you know, I from what I saw in the game, because I didn't see the whole game, is there was some really nice pitching sequences, but, you know, on the whole this season he's been really up and down.
Yeah, he has. Particularly against Atlanta has been the downs. Now, in terms of people talking about the move that Theo made to get him, there's just one thing that I do have to point out is that Quintana came up pretty big in that stretch run last year. And he was good for the Cubs last year overall. He had 2 good starts in the postseason before a really bad one. Came up really big against the Orioles in his first start to kind of help get things going. He had that complete game shutout against the Milwaukee Brewers in that key big series to lower the magic number. And he had some good starts between that with a few bad ones. But, you know, overall, his first tenure as a Cub, I mean, that went well. So they did get something out of him.
I think, you know, when the Cubs make their run, he'll definitely be an important cog in it. You'll see him pitch 7+ innings and put up good stat lines. And when I say when the Cubs make a run, they're going to make a run. I think that's inevitable. And one thing I was going to bring up is, you know, projections still have the Cubs winning this division, even though right now Milwaukee's starting to run away with it.
You know, it kind of looks like a runaway, but it can be kind of hard to call it a runaway at the same time when it's just going to be turning June and they have 5 games in hand against the Cubs. So, I mean, yeah, you don't want to be down 5.5 games. But I don't know if I'd say runaway just yet, but it is kind of frustrating that the Brewers can seem to do no wrong right now. That's either a good thing or a bad thing. It could be a bad thing because it's going to keep giving them confidence and they're keep going to build and they're going to keep adding and they're going to keep getting better. Or it could be a good thing for the Cubs and be kind of that, well, they peaked in May again. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think they're going to keep up pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, they got like 4 or 5 up on most of the other teams in the division, but this is a long way from over,
Right.
and you're gonna see the division leader change multiple times. I bet the Cardinals will pop into the lead for a bit.
Oh, they always
and then Pittsburgh is the only one I don't think will pop back in. I think they're going to slowly start to fade, not because they're not good. I just think that the Cardinals are the Cardinals and the Cubs and Brewers are just better teams. But I really do think the Cubs are going to go on a big run. They've played down to their competition. They've had a lot of struggles with most of their hitters. Rizzo's still struggling. Russell, Hayward, and Happ are kind of dead weight. You've had rotation problems, and you're still hanging in there with a team that's just on fire. So, once is the Brewers are going to hit a rough patch because it's baseball, and that's what happens.
Yeah, you're naturally.
And the Cubs are going to hit a good winning streak, and that's when they take the lead and they just don't look back.
Right, exactly.
Just looking, do I have anything else I wanted to mention? That's all I really had to talk about. I don't know if there's anything else that you had for Cubs talk. I mean, there's endless things we could talk about, but nothing that we haven't rehashed.
Oh, Almora just made another fantastic catch in center field.
I need an Almora jersey.
Me too.
I love Almora, and I hope that Joe Madden is forced to play him, and because I don't know if there's like beef or why Joe just doesn't want to play him more. He's earned it, and he deserves it, and he's one of your top 3 hitters on a team that doesn't have a lot of hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. I have some breaking news. Before we sign off, let's break this on a high note. Are you ready? Get hyped. C-Dub is tweeting.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, Ball just posted, Jaylen Brown is absolutely shrugging against Cleveland. Where did your game go? Signed C-Dub. And then I asked, is C-Dub on Twitter? And then he responded, drink to it, my friend.
That's awesome. C-Dub's on Twitter, and the Cavaliers are taking the lead with under 7 minutes left in Game 7, the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think we all knew they were going to win.
Well, I mean, they're playing a Celtics team that lost their top 2-3 players to injury. Like they're playing like a shell of the Celtics, and they're in a Game 7. Doesn't matter who wins between the Rockets and the Warriors. That's the NBA Finals.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't tell me that the Cavaliers would be in the conference finals if they were in the West. You can't tell me that.
No, I'm right there with you.
But yeah, I guess that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody for listening. Please make sure you hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the TuneIn app. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. Thank you guys so much for listening. Share with your friends, and until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on the plains.
Bears 31 to -7.
Bears. Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.